Hi, this is Gordon J. Alexander. I'm back with the fifth video in the series. So far, what we've discussed is number one, the stimulus response with spiders and snakes and mice. Oh my! And how I learned when I was 9 years old that words have power, and we talked about that on video number 2. The power of words to influence people and persuade them to do things, and that began a lifetime study for me into salesmanship and later on hypnosis and states of mind and the whole power of words and how they could be used. On the third video, we took a look at the pictogram of persuasion for a transaction. The pictogram of persuasion remains the same as far as the left side, right side, but they're not always about a transaction. They could be about a personal relationship or meeting someone or all kinds of things. The pictogram of persuasion comes in handy whenever you're faced with an opportunity to persuade or influence somebody. Especially if you're like maybe in public speaking or something along that line, you can use the pictogram of persuasion. But the one I showed you was for a transaction, and it showed that you have knowledge. And then on the next one, I showed them on video for them and their preoccupations. They live in their own little world inside their bubble. And you intersect, your words intersect, your knowledge intersects with their preoccupation. Now I told you, what are those preoccupations? Okay, let's get ready to rock and roll. This is going to be fast and furious here. This is Persuasion 101, Part 5A, Preoccupation, the Alexander Modified Maslow Pyramid. Abraham Maslow was a psychologist. I recommend you use Wikipedia or Google Abraham Maslow. What I want you to do is go to Google Images, and type in Maslow Pyramid. And there you're going to see a pyramid of basic human needs. I got to adjust my lighting here. And what you're going to see is what one of Maslow's studies was about basic human needs. And he came up with long-term, the prepotent hierarchy of basic human needs, and basically put it in a pyramid form and showed that the basic needs begin with the basic needs, food, clothing, and shelter. On the pictogram of persuasion on the right-hand side, I showed your target. And your target, in this case, has money in their hands, and they intersect with your knowledge, their wants and needs. But I showed you the little pyramid up above, and that was the pyramid of preoccupation. As a persuader, you've got to use your knowledge. You've got to use your knowledge, which is always with a big K, your knowledge of human behavior, in order to construct the right words to use to persuade and influence somebody. If you go to Google and type in images, you're going to see in images and type in Maslow's pyramid. Slow down there, Gordon. You're going to see something like that, and that's one that I actually took off there. At the very bottom, I don't know if you can read it, but it says physiological needs: air, water, food, shelter, sleep, sex. And then it goes up into safety and security, the umbrella. We know a big insurance company uses an umbrella, don't we? And then it goes into love and relationships. And then self-esteem, and then at the top is self-actualization, vitality and creativity, blah, blah, blah. Take a look over there and read, spend 5 minutes reading about Maslow. He's very credible about all this stuff. Until very recently, there are a couple of psychologists that would like to smear up his work a little bit. But listen, for our part, this is good information, and I want to show you what one of my pyramids looks like. And that's one of my fancy ones I got. You can see that I art as a child. Hopefully you get that gold. I use gold glitter glue. Yay, glitter glue. And you see that I put the gold down on the bottom, followed by the green, the red, the blue, and then I use purple up on top. Let me show you another one of my great Alexander Modified Maslow pyramids. Another one. Again, some handiwork. Pretty proud of that stuff. I like that one a lot. Anyhow, the point I want to make to you is when you're looking at the Maslow pyramid, they have lines going across them. And in real life, there aren't any lines. A person doesn't take a step over from when their basic human needs are met. They don't actually step over a line and go into the safety zone. What happens is, you see they overlap each other. They overlap. And actually, that's the pyramid, but at any given time, all these colors could be combined. Now, the Alexander Modified Maslow corresponds to my GJA Square One workshops. If you've never heard of me or don't know anything about it, they've been posted for 11 years. www.sowpub.com/SQ1. Those would be lowercase. Alexander Modified Maslow corresponds to my Square One workshops, in which instead of a pyramid, like I've got here, this beautiful hand-drawn pyramid. Oh, that guy looks like a little cloud or something. I never noticed that. Ooh, subconscious. What I do on the Square One workshops is I use the 5-lane highway, and it looks more like this. So at any given time, as you're driving down the road of your life, you could be into any one of those lanes on the 5-lane highway. But anyhow, that's not important. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I just wanted to let you know, if you want to jump ahead a little bit and look at the Square One workshops, they've been posted for 11 years. Nobody understands them but me, but we're going to change that. Okay, in the Alexander Modified Pyramid, you're going to see a couple things a little bit different. Down here, I've got food, shelter, clothing. Okay, and then right below that, if you could see that, I've got, let me see, beer, wine, drugs, and of course sex. Sex, 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 sex. Gee, Gordon, you got a one-track mind. No, sex comes into play in all 5 of the Maslow areas of human needs and wants, and it plays on all 5 lanes on the Square One workshops. And you'll see that what I've done is I've inserted my own little basic wants and needs. If you want to test this out on any Friday night, go into a convenience store, a 7-Eleven or something like that, whatever you've got in your area, and watch the tradesmen get off work from about 3:30 to 5:30, and you'll notice they buy 2 things. They buy big cases of beer or bottles of wine, and they buy their cigarettes. Now, I should have cigarettes on there, but that's actually a drug. So, we live in the American society where food, shelter, and clothing are the we're pretty well taken care of in the United States. 80% of the world do not have enough food, do not have enough shelter, and do not have enough clothing. Hey, let me ask you a quick question. Who do you think is more preoccupied with food and shelter and clothing? Some homeless person in New York City or Donald Trump? Remember, this is the basic human needs. Well, your first inclination might be to think homeless person, but when I was in AmeriCorps, I worked with a lot of homeless people. In fact, it's what we were designed to do. And you know what? They're very self-sufficient people. They can find food. They know when the soup kitchen's open. They know what church is serving bologna sandwiches at lunch. They know where to find shelter if they choose, if they want it. They know where to get free clothing at all the good neighbors and places like that. But say on any given day, like the last day of the Celebrity Apprentice, Donald Trump might be very preoccupied with what he's going to wear, his clothing. Which Armani suit should he wear? What about the food they're going to eat? Is it going to be good enough to have Wolfgang Puck cooking that night? I don't know. So the reason I'm talking about this is because Maslow and all these other guys use a line, as I have described, but when you think of a 5-lane highway or one of my silly little pyramids, you could see that at any given time, anybody can be preoccupied with one of these 5 basic areas. Although economically it holds somewhat true that these are little dollar bills and up at the top are great big dollar bills. You can't spend $10,000 to go to a James Arthur Ray death camp, a sweat lodge, if you're down here and you're only making $10,000 a year, see? So a lot of this does follow the dollar up the ladder. So up at the top, the people with more money have more time to pursue their search for meaning and to find their God and to become self-actualized. I say up at the top, it goes very wrong when it becomes a cult. When there's some man walking on earth and a handful of women who claim that they have ascended this pyramid and they've self-actualized and they have spoken with or been spoken to by God, or they've discovered the meaning of life, and you've got to go and pay $10,000 and go to a sweat lodge and with the possibility of dying like 3 people did. That son of a bitch is in jail for 2 years.